The people who I've been working with is a family in rural Nebraska. It's the Monson family, and I'd love to tell you guys a little bit about them. DJ Monson, when he was a young teenager, he was riding in a school bus and they had a very severe accident. He suffered a very traumatic head injury. Ever since that time, the guy's been an epileptic. He's had seizures. They used to call them grand mal seizures. Now they call them tonic-clonics. Any of you all acquainted at all with epilepsy, you understand what I'm talking about. Very severe. Well, they progressed and continued to get worse until the point where he had to go on disability. He couldn't work a job. His wife had to take and provide for the family and all. Until an old timer came along and said, "Bud, what you need is you need marijuana." He said, "Take a little bit, plant it on your farm. Don't tell anybody about it. Take what you need. You'll be fine." For 9 years, he did not suffer one seizure. Till one year, and this was last year, his wife came down with terminal cancer. So he planted a little larger grow out on his farm and went on. Well, he had the medical bills were astronomical, so he decided to sell his gun collection and put an ad in the newspaper. Along comes the Sheriff's Department's task force. They thought they were going to do something really grand. I guess they thought they were going to get a really big bust, and they pressed in. They sent in an informant, poor sucker who had gotten busted, and the only way he could stay out of jail was by basically narking on other people. So that's what he did. He came in and struck a deal with poor DJ for about $400 for his gun collection and a bag of cannabis. And then the task force came in behind him and busted him in full riot gear. Not only did they do that, but then that wasn't quite enough for them. Understand that they get finances from the federal government to run those drug task force. That's one of the biggest reasons why they do what they do. And so they went out along the fence rows and started pulling up feral hemp. Now, in Iowa and Nebraska, you don't have to drive very far to see hemp growing along in the fence rows. I've got pictures of me standing next to plants 16 feet tall. It grows wild everywhere. Of course, you smoke it, you're just going to get a headache. But I guess the cops figured, hey, what the hell, So they padded the bus, which started off around 50 plants up to something like 200 plants or some stuff. In the police photos, if you know anything about cannabis, it's pretty easy to tell the difference between medicine and hemp. But that didn't matter. So old DJ, he has his first seizure in about 8-9 years, laying on the floor of a prison cell, jail cell. The whole time realizing that he probably was not going to get to be with his wife when his wife passed, because he would probably be serving time in prison. Well, his wife, when I went up and I interviewed them the first time last year, his wife had I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about a 17 pound tumor removed from her chest just about a month before I came up for my first interviews with them. And DJ was busted just shortly thereafter she had surgery. The cops wanted to put her in jail too, even though she was recuperating from terminal cancer. 2 months later, I was back in Nebraska to film her in the hospital when she was having a 9-pound tumor removed from her chest. Now, I was about 2 weeks ago, following my trip to Iowa, I went on to Nebraska to interview her again because basically she had been about somewhere around 60 days without passing, and everybody was considering it to be a miracle. Understand that by that time her chest had swollen out so far, and this is a little gal, she only weighed probably about 80 pounds soaking wet. Her chest had protruded out considerably in her abdomen as well, because the tumors had grown so big. She had 3 tumors now growing in her chest, and she was lapsing in and out of a comatose state. The doctors were saying, well, she's going to die any day. Hospice was coming in. They'd set up a hospital bed down in their living room so that she could be there, because she couldn't make it up the steps up to the bedroom upstairs. And so they said, well, I need to get up here and film her as soon as possible because she could die any time. So, well, I was able to come up and see her here a couple weeks ago. Well, by things that I can't really talk to you about right now because I don't want to get them in any trouble, but through rather miraculous circumstances, which I hope you all could probably imagine, her chest has gone down completely. Her heart, which had been pushed over 4 inches in her chest because of this huge tumor, now she was breathing normally. She still had oxygen on. She was still wearing oxygen, but it wasn't like if she didn't have it, she was gasping or anything. She was able to breathe. She was completely to herself. As a matter of fact, at that point, for the last 3 days, she was climbing the stairs up and sleeping in her own bed again. Doctors are amazed because the chemo failed, the radiation failed, all the other drugs that the pharmaceutical meds had given her failed. My God, it must be a miracle. I call it a miracle plant. I wish you all could see what I have seen. If you all have had anybody die or suffer terribly with an illness, I wish you could have seen what I have seen. To use the words of George McMahon, one of the federal legal patients, why are people not rioting in the streets? Why are you not angry? When I have stood toe-to-toe with our state legislators here in Missouri, and I have taken and told those people the stories that I have heard, the stories that I have got on YouTube, that are out on the web, the different people I have met and I have talked to. I have told these people, our elect, told them these stories and had them look me straight in the face and say, I don't care what you say, I'm not voting for that. That's what our elect are doing out in Jeff City. I've got to watch myself. Why are you not rioting in the streets? Why do we wait for our brothers and sisters, our moms and dads, and our family members to die miserably when there is something that could, even if it could benefit them? Why is it still illegal? Folks, cannabis is safer than cough medicine. 4,000 people die every year from NSAIDs like Tylenol and aspirin. No one dies from cannabis. Like George told me. George said, he said, there is only one way you can die from cannabis. That's 1,700 pounds dropped from 7 feet, and it has nothing to do with smoking it. It's true. It's true. Anyway, I'm not going to stand up here. This is not what I do. What I do is on the other side of a camera. Come and see me up there. I'm back up in the corner up there, right over there. If you guys have a serious illness of any kind, come and talk to me about it, okay? Where are you? Rod, are you anywhere close by here? Rod Wells came along with me. You need to meet Mr. Rod Wells. Rod Wells, you'll see his interview on